Well, to be precise, Buddhism, as you know, in this country, has only been here the last 1,000 years. Although this area was partly Buddhist, partly Hindu, and it was occupied by the Khmer Empire before 1,000 years ago. So the people here believe in the Pi, the spirit that originally. Pi is something that you don't understand, but they have power over you. Could be a human being, could be a non-human being, could be a good Pi, could be a bad Pi. But once we embrace a kind of Indian civilization, the Pi has become more and more elaborated. We have many divisions of Pi, and so on and so forth. And later on, when Buddhism came, Buddhism, unlike Christianity or Islam, because in Christianity you have to believe only on one God, or the Holy Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. You cannot believe in anything else. But with Buddhism, whatever you believe, up to you. If you feel that by belief in the Buddha that help you, that's fine. Or if you believe in the Spirit that help you, that's fine. But ultimately, the Buddha said, whatever you do, whatever you believe, you must empower yourself. By empowering yourself, you can change yourself through breathing. The most important element in our life is breathing. Whereas in the West, we tend to think that the most important element in our life is thinking. Thinking could be useful, could be harmful. But breathing is essential. If you don't breathe for 5 minutes, you're dead. But most people don't learn how to breathe. So for me, the essential teaching of the Buddha is teaching you how to breathe. If you breathe properly, you know that you have a long breath, short breath. And from this simple breathing, you can learn to change greed into generosity. You can change hatred into non-violence. And you can even change ignorance into wisdom. That's essential teaching of the Buddha. But when you are not strong enough, yes, you can worship the Pi, you can worship the demons, you can worship angels, that's up to you. Like if we don't know how to swim, you can depend on a coconut trunk, you can depend on the banana trunk to help you not to be drowned. There's nothing wrong with that. But eventually, you must learn how to swim yourself. This is what I understand to be the teaching of the Buddha, which linking with other beliefs, which the people here believe even before Buddhism came. I don't know whether I made myself clear. You can ask me, or you can challenge me, or whatever you want to make any comment. Okay?
From my understanding is that the ultimate goal of Buddhism is to let go of things, because we believe that the cause of suffering is when we trying to hold on to things in life and not to let go. Do you think that is the ultimate goal of Buddhism?
Can you summarize?
So he says his understanding of Buddhism is to learn to let go of things. The goal of Buddhism, as he understands, is to let go of things, material things and to learn to let go, do you feel that is the ultimate goal of Buddhism?
Well, of course, you can define Buddhism many ways you like. See, but ultimately, the Buddha taught us to learn how to be less selfish. I think that's ultimate. The more you attach to yourself, the more your ego becomes big. The bigger the ego, it gives you a lot of harm, not only to yourself and others. So that's why in Buddhism you learn to understand that the ego, in fact, it doesn't even exist. It is convenient. If you call me Sulak, it's convenient. But Sulak is just a name. But when you say something nasty about Sulak, I become very angry because I'm attached to my serious name. So in Buddhism, you learn that not to be attached. Yes.
Any questions?
Have I answered your question?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions, right?
Please.
I have two questions.
Please.
First is about Tibet Buddhism.
Yes.
We have a little discuss in Hawaii what will happen next Dalai Lama, because the Dalai Lama is also higher aged, and he said, given the situation, even the China's ruling by the Communist Party,
Okay.
he do not willing to give another Dalai Lama. Do you
Okay.
think it's true, or what do you think it happened?
Is
The-
that first question? Or?
Yes, the first question. And also the first question, I noticed that you said the wellness, be rich is not a duty, because be rich you can give more to the other peoples, right? There were some interviews. And given this situation, Beijing, the Chinese Communist government, they give lots of money to Tibet. Do you think it's kind of the offering? That's the first question.
That's a good question. Number one, regarding the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is an official name given by non-Tibetan. When the Mongolian became powerful, and they felt that they need something spiritual, and they felt that the Tibetan monk, although not as strong as the Mongolian in economic, politics, military, but have something special that they call the Tibetan teacher. Lama meaning teacher.
Guru, yes.
Lama, teacher. And the best teacher is the teacher who teaches all sentient beings like an ocean. So the Lama means the teacher who is like an ocean, teaching for all. So it was given by the Mongolian. In fact, it was given to the third Dalai Lama. But the third said that for him to receive this honor, you must honor his teacher and his teacher. So the third Dalai Lama was the first one. So this was a political entity, and it's been going on for now. The present one is the 14th Dalai Lama. It may be useful for government in Tibet, but the present Dalai Lama feels that this is no longer useful. We don't need it anymore. That's why he said that the function of the Dalai Lama is now obsolete. No need. But of course, as a person, as a Buddhist who believes in rebirth,
Yes.
he himself will be reborn. And he could be reborn as a man, a woman. He could be reborn a better being than human being, or even worse than human being. So that is the Tibetan belief in the teaching of Buddha. Have I answered your first question?
And do you think the Communist Party giving the money to Tibet is kind of offering?
Giving money, it could be helpful, could be harmful. Many of us give money in order to buy people to love us. So in Buddhism, giving, it depends very much on your motive. If your motive is altruistic, what you give is wonderful. If you give with the bad intention, try to buy people, that is not good for the receiver as well as the giver. So have to be careful in giving. Giving is the first paramita. You know, people, we all of us must learn to cultivate ourselves to be a better human being. And the first advice is dana, how to give. But you have to give wisely. First you give whatever you don't want, and you give what is most dear to you. You can even give your life away. But that is still giving material stuff. The Buddha said, better than giving material stuff, you give the truth. The truth is much more important than any material stuff. So you must learn that truth is more important than anything else. But beyond that, you must learn how to keep away fear. All of us have fear. We are afraid of death. We are afraid of downfall. We are afraid of not to be recognized. So fear is in all of us. So you cultivate by giving material stuff. Ultimately, try to give the truth, particularly in dictatorial power. Giving truth is much more dangerous than a democratic country. But even so, keeping away fear is much more important. So giving, in Buddhism, there is always step to learn. You cultivate step by step. And when you learn, it is practical. You don't have to believe, but you learn. I know one Tibetan monk who was put in prison by the Chinese government for 8 years. He's older than me.
Look young.
Yeah, we marched together at one time. We marched from the White House to the World Bank in order to stop the World Bank giving money to the Chinese to build a big dam. And this monk walked with me. He's much older than me, but he looked much better. But he was tortured for 8 years. And I asked him, how you look better than me? He said, why he was being tortured? He cultivated his love for the one who tortured him. He never hated the man who tortured him. He cared for the man who tortured him. So his mind did care more for others than himself. That's marvelous. So in Buddhism, you don't have to believe. You try to practice what is practical, what is real.
Yes. Just a little response.
I don't know whether I answer your about giving.
Yes. I saw sharing a story in Washington, D.C. It's about, I do a little analysis during the Cultural Revolution in China, when the PLA, the army, gave a bullet to the monks, and even the monks say thank you. In Tibetan they call tuchichi, right? So they were so astonishing for those people who from the other culture. So that's my question. I have another question.
Please.
Your work, your research, and your life inspire many other peoples, including Anderson Benedict, Professor Anderson Benedict. Yes. Because he passed away in 2015, we do not have a chance to meet him.
Yes.
Can you share some story about Anderson Benedict, Professor Anderson?
Yes.
And what's your comment for his work?
Well, I know him quite well. Ben Anderson.
Yes.
He very much loved by his students. But Ben, to be honest with you, he has no time for anything spiritual.
Mm.
But he is a wonderful Marxist. He's a good socialist. He wants to work for truth. He wants to work for social justice. And he worked very hard. For instance, he learned Bahasa Indonesia, he learned Japanese, he knows Indonesia very well.
Yes.
And he wants to help the Indonesians so much that Suharto would not even allow him to go to Indonesia, the price he paid for that. So he switched to come to this country. This country is much easier, although we have dictatorship. Big dictatorship in this country is less violent than the Indonesian. That's why Ben worked much more in his later life in this country. He started learning Thai. He was expert in Bahasa Indonesia, in Japanese. He started learning Thai, and he became more an expert in Thai language. But his idea is that we must work with the people in that country. Not that we are better. We are white people and we are not better than you, but we are all together. So all his students love him, they work together. And I happen to know him quite well, and I have great admiration for him. But as I said, for him, spiritual is something not very relevant.
Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
Kalpana.
Thank you so much. It's an honor meeting you. So I want to ask that on one hand, there is the, we know Buddhism as a peaceful philosophy, religion. I come from India. But on the other hand, now we're also seeing the rise of violence, whether, we see news from Myanmar about, Buddhism becoming more of a violent, I don't want to call it religion, but using violence. Or also in Thailand, what's happening as far as minorities are concerned, and then, Buddhist monks actually using violence. Yes.
What is the suitable question?
Talking about thinking of Buddhism as a peaceful spiritual practice. However, the examples from Myanmar and in Thailand where Buddhist monks have been violent.
Very,
using
very
violence.
good question. I define Buddhism with a capital B and small b. Capital B Buddhism means that my way of Buddhism is the best. We Burmese Buddhists are better than the Thai. We Theravada are better than the Mahayana. Not equal. And sometimes we become nationalistic. In Sri Lanka, the Sinhala are Buddhist, the Tamil are Hindu, Christian. So as Buddhists, we should kill the Tamil and be killing for so many years because of attached to the capital B Buddhism. For me, in fact, I'm one of the founders of this, you can see, International Network Engaged Buddhists, small B Buddhists. It means that the teaching of the Buddha is how to cultivate love instead of hatred, how to serve others rather than be the master to others. So I think the small B Buddhism is try to put the teaching of the Buddha into a nutshell. Don't go so much for ceremony, don't go so much for naturalism. In this country, you may notice, mainstream Buddhism in this country is not naturalistic, but it's capitalistic. There's a group called Namakaya, very popular in this country. You go there, you meditate. The more you meditate, you keep more and more money, and when you keep more money, you get more and more money. It's all capitalism, consumerism, in the name of Buddhism. So Buddhism, unfortunately, have many bad names attached to it. So you have to be careful when you use the word Buddhism, because I kept on telling people, the Buddha never called Buddhism. He only said his teaching is either You get the right view or the wrong view. There's no word Buddhism. If you have the right view, that means that you learn to be more humble. You learn to be less egoistic. You learn to serve others. That's the right view. The wrong view is that you want to be more powerful, you want to be richer, and so on. This is essential teaching of the Buddha, as I understand it.
Okay, we were talking about gift and giving your life away. Can you elaborate more on this? When you said you can give your life away,
Yes.
how do you give your life away? Is it in service or by dying?
Well, it's not that easy to give your life away. The teaching of the Buddha is that you are willing to leave some part of your body to serve your life. You can have your leg cut off to preserve your life. Your life is much more important than your leg, right? So to give away physical body to preserve life. But he said, but ultimately, you're willing to give your life in order to preserve the truth. It's not easy, but you have to cultivate step by step. Once you see truth is more important, then you're willing to sacrifice your life for truth. Many people have done that. I mean, Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma, she was locked up so long. Now she came out, and now they lock her up again. But she's willing to die without kowtowing to the junta that run Burma now. See?
Charles.
Yes. Yes.
Recently, we've seen the Prayut government, the military government in Thailand, trying to reform the education system to place more emphasis on religion, on love for family, and love for the monarchy. Do you think the military government is misusing religion to legitimize their power?
Yes. The dictators in this country, they would do anything to uphold their power. They feel that most people are Buddhist, so they claim to uphold Buddhism as a state religion, which is great danger. They say we should all love the king, which could be helpful and harmful. So for me, for a human being, whatever you do, you must learn to be wise. If you think the monarchy is useful, the monarchy must be an institution which is transparent. We must be able to criticize the king. After all, he is a human being. And likewise, if Buddhism is useful, Buddhism should help people to love each other. I am against the word Thailand, for instance, because 3 or 4 provinces in the south are not Thai, they are Malay. This country used to be known as Siam until 1941, when we became nationalistic. Following Hitler, only the Thai are superior race. I think that's a great downfall. I feel that whatever we do, we should be skillful. We should care for those minorities. I don't know whether I answer your question.
Thank you.
Would you mind talking a little bit about socially engaged Buddhism and what that has meant in Thai society and in your work?
Socially engaged Buddhism is the word coined by Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese monk. Because the word Buddhism was known in the West only in the last 200 years. And when Westerners became Buddhist, they feel that to become Buddhist, it means that you sit down and meditate. You don't you don't get yourself involved with society. And I call that escapism, not Buddhism. No, it's widespread. In England, the oldest society called Buddhist society is now 90 years old. See, Mrs. Crispin Humphrey was a great advocate, great judge, eloquent in teaching Buddhism. But she said, to be Buddhist, meditate. He said the Christian went wrong because they got involved in society. I said, no. Teaching the Buddha is this, meditation is one. I said, learn how to breathe properly. Yes. But even that, you can use that positively or negatively. I don't know, you know the book called Zen at War. The Japanese are very good at Zen. They sit so much that they have got with great concentration. And they went to bomb Pearl Harbor to die for the emperor. That is the Buddhism. They use the Buddhist method wrongly because Buddhism teach non-violence. If violence is not teaching the Buddha. So social Buddhism means, yes, we must cultivate ourselves. We must learn to be peaceful. But that's not enough. We must use peace inside us, bring peace to confront the suffering in the world. And to understand suffering in the world nowadays is much more complicated than simple society, because we have structural violence. You have to understand the structural violence and how to change the structure. I don't know whether you see in my latest book called The Wisdom of Sustainability, Buddhist Economic for the 21st Century. That's one of my latest book. It translated to 15 languages. Okay. So the point is that you learn to transform yourself and at the same time try to transform society to be more equitable, to be more harmonious. That's what I understand to be engaged Buddhism. The word, it did not coin the word.
We actually, in Honolulu, we went to Pearl Harbor, where indigenous spiritual